Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Trade Talk. I'm here with Michael Ding, CEO of Bobyard. He's back for round two, and it's only fitting because, Michael, your company is completely different than when we talked just a little over a year ago.
Yeah, I think we alluded to this in the first episode, but there'll be a part two, and so here we are.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think well, in I guess in the AI world, like it feels like it's been a long time, but it's only been it's probably been less than a year, and so yeah, good to be back.
yeah. But you know what's interesting is even though it's only been a year, let's say, it's been like 3 or 4 cycles of change in the industry that you're in, the AI industry. So why don't you walk us through a little bit of that? You guys went out and raised a Series A fundraise and brought in some money. How was that process as a CEO of a fast growing AI tech startup?
Um, well, that's yeah, I think there are probably more startups than there used to be now because the sort of the barrier to entry is lower because anybody can sort of vibe code together a prototype and demo it. But
Yeah.
I think actually the number of truly good companies in the world are probably still about the same. Maybe it's a bit more, but I wouldn't argue like it's like exponentially more like there is in normal startups. And so like the number of total startups that start every year is like massive. But of them, the number that actually make it and have really great traction and great numbers and become a great company eventually is still probably about the same, maybe a bit more. But um, and I say like if you're one of those really strong companies, generally I think it's pretty easy to build around together because there's just so much I think money in the system right now looking for a way to get involved in sort of like Silicon Valley AI startup world. That if you have a really compelling business that have great like intrinsic qualities, I think it ends up being pretty easy to pull together. We had it was a pretty competitive round that we
Yeah.
announced. I think in the last year. It was very oversubscribed. There's like more investors that want to be on the cap table than we could allow. Yeah.
That's all. I mean, so going back to when you first started to think about that situation where you have more people and more investors that want to get in than you can actually allow onto the cap table. I mean, what does that feel like as a well, college dropout startup
Sure.
CEO?
I think actually nowadays I feel like it's pretty common for this to happen. If you're a very hot AI startup, generally people do a preempt nowadays. I see a lot of preempting where it's like before the company is ready for actually a fundraising round, the investors jump the gun and do the round before you're ready. And sometimes they have a pre-existing relationship with you, or maybe they want to do it before you can bring it to the rest of the market, and so they don't have to compete with other investors, etc. And for our case, like we never there was no deck. I think we were in the midst of making one when someone made the first offer, and like we wanted to, but we had some surrounding materials and whatnot. They asked for like a data room. We didn't have a data room,
Yeah.
and we had to scrape we had to scrape it together afterwards in a rush. Um, but I think actually if I remember, like I don't think we publicized it much at the time, but looking back, maybe we should have more because we were doing some research recently, and I think it's probably the largest software round anybody's ever raised in construction, like Series A. It was like 35 mil in a Series A, and like I really don't think anybody actually has raised that much. Maybe around there's maybe some really large rounds elsewhere, but like in construction software, I really haven't seen anything like that before. And I think it's a cool moment not just for Bobyard and sort of our milestone, but also like I think for construction as a whole, like maybe finally stream Silicon Valley like venture capital sees the opportunity there is in the trades and applying AI to the trades in this vertical. And I think I think that's partially what's been missing. Like there's not enough technology people, not enough venture people trying to explore new ideas and try to innovate in these verticals. When we raised the A, like one of the main we did a few events and whatnot and try to for hiring and whatnot, and one of the main things we were saying is like if you go online and search up full productivity per full-time employee in construction versus productivity of full-time employee in the general U.S. economy.
Yeah.
I think actually, so the trend line is like you can plot it over time, and it's steadily the general U.S. worker productivity per full-time worker in the U.S. economy goes up and trends just fine. In construction, actually, it goes up and then it peaks at like 1960s, 70s and actually goes down. And it's been down since. And so the average productivity per full-time worker in construction is actually lower than it was in 1970 today.
Wow. Really?
And then the index is relative, and it's actually like 3 times lower than the average U.S. Worker in the general U.S. economy. It's like that. I think the index there is like 300, and construction is like 100, and so it's like a 3x difference. And
Why do
so
you think
like
that is? Yeah, go ahead.
well, intuitively, it means like, you could somehow make every person in construction like somehow 3x more productive, and maybe it's possible, like Bobyard does like 50-70% time savings, and if you're 70% faster, and it's like 30% what it used to take, and so it's like 3x more. So maybe that works. But I think a lot of this has there's some like regulation things and whatnot. I think that's involved in construction, but also I think part of it is just like I think part of it is just like every other industry, in order to stay on that like growth curve of productivity per employee growing up, like there's innovation and new cycles and sort of new technologies to get sort of invested into these verticals. And maybe that's just hasn't been much of a case in construction. Like there's so many like fast growing AI startups and whatnot in legal and finance. And there just hasn't been as many in construction. And I think part of it is just because the infrastructure is also not there, as in like,
Totally.
for there to be a Harvey or Legora, which is like those are very, very hot legal AI startups, the legal world must have had like a software SaaS revolution beforehand, before they could be ready for like an AI revolution. And maybe just like construction hasn't had those previous other sort of innovation cycles, and so it's sort of hard to catch up. But I think finally people are seeing the opportunity, and I think it's quite a big opportunity, because construction is easily one of the biggest industries in America. It's like 2.2 trillion in spend a year in construction. It's like there's very few industries in the world that's as big as construction, and I also think it's such a critical thing. Like there's all these talks about like energy and like the race against China and other countries for like the little infrastructure projects that you need to build in order to compete in the AI race and have enough power.
Yeah.
And China has these like insane dams that like produce probably like the numbers were insane. The infrastructure projects in China, and like we just can't compete on that scale because we don't have these projects anymore. And I think we've literally lost the ability to build really impressive like infrastructure projects. I don't think we can do the Hoover Dam today. I think is my understanding. Like it's just too hard, and like that knowledge is just been lost. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think what we saw, I've studied a lot of people over history, and I believe it's Henry J. Kaiser. It's definitely Kaiser. I think it's Henry Kaiser, but he was like the guy in World War II that took shipbuilding that used to take 6 weeks to build a ship, and he built one in like 4 days or something crazy. And he also was involved with the Hoover Dam and involved with all these giant infrastructure projects. And I don't think like let's say we have like Elon Musk, for example, today, who's in that same, iconic just disruptor mode of I'm going to just build this like crazy gigafactory. But we have very few people in the country, and we don't have government backing right now, except maybe the Trump administration at some levels is starting to back these bigger projects. One in Utah just got approved, which is a pretty big deal. But like the government of California, for example, where a lot of this is happening, is anti-growth, anti-infrastructure in a lot of their policies. Whether what they say is what they say, but from a policy perspective, they're very anti-growth. So you're having this competition now, not in a good way, like competing against the federal government and the state government to try to build these infrastructure projects.
Yeah, I mean, I visited. We were doing a bunch of trade talk. Well, not trade talk. Sorry, like we were doing what we call it, like a builders tables, I think.
Yeah, those
we
are
did.
pretty cool.
Yeah. No, they're pretty nice, and we did them sort of in different cities where there's like major construction hubs and whatnot. And we did one in Austin recently, and Austin is like when I talk to people in Austin, it's like it's a completely different city every like 5 years or something. And there were people like they were saying like the number of apartments like grew exponentially in Austin. I think maybe more like right now they probably overbuilt a little bit, but I think the trend line overall for the next 5-10 years is that Austin's being an amazing city. It's going to keep growing, and just the speed at which they build is so impressive. Yeah, it's funny how that happens. Like the the most disruptive technologies are built in SF and Silicon Valley. Yeah.
It is a bit ironic and well, it's interesting. I mean, let's go back to the construction talk. Tell me a little bit about your research. You've done a lot of research on the construction industry. What are some of the trades that you are currently focused on that you feel like Bobyard is going to be able to make that 3x potential improvement on the process, the efficiency and productivity of employees?
I think anywhere where there's like heavy duty like blueprint reading and takeoff work, I think we can do similar, if not more ROI than we have in landscaping. Like so part of the 2.0 launch was a redesign of the infrastructure for the platform so that we can support the new trades that we're launching later in this quarter. And so far I think we've done very well in landscaping and the new trades we're launching, we're actually ahead of schedule. We're launching a bunch of trades at the same time. We're going to be launching finishes, so like flooring, drywall, painting, baseboards and trim and doors and windows. So that's one, group of trades. And we're also launching a second group of trades, MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. And I think just the sheer velocity at which the team is able to ship is pretty insane. Like the electrical scope is probably just as big as the landscaping scope. And we built that in like, I don't know, a quarter. And it's like so insane how we're able to ship so much different products like all at the same time. It's I think maybe partially just because like AI one of the best use cases for AI is like coding and so like you can just use AI models to help the engineers code, and that's actually the best use case right now. And you can just expect more out of engineering teams that are strong. But it's not even like we have one underlying suite of models that can be applied for different trades. It's like we have a whole suite of models trained and dedicated just for each of the trades. So it's like, okay, these models are trained just for landscaping. These models are just trained for electrical. And it's just like purely tailored for that one trade. And just the amount of like velocity the team has been able to ship is pretty amazing. Yeah.
So I'm so fascinated by this. This is awesome. So you guys are actually building custom models for each trade. So that model is like native to all things electrical and knows all the weird terminology that the specifiers use and is really just team like built force and focus specifically on each trade at this point.
Yeah, there are engineers dedicated to just like, okay, you're like you just work on electrical. That's all you do.
Nice.
Because like electrical is so different. Like electrical, you do like conduits are not even drawn, and you have to like create the conduits yourself. And we're at the level of depth now where we can literally tell you, we can read the model, will read the panels and the schedule in the panels, and then we'll find all the receptacles and count them, sure, but also know which circuits the receptacles are in, and it'll find the home run and find the panel, and literally give you optimal conduit wiring, like sort of routing routes throughout the building. And it'll tell you, oh, like this conduit has too many turns, the code doesn't like that, you should change it. Or there's too many wires in this conduit and that it will get too hot, and according to the codes, you should probably have a better conduit. And like we can literally do optimal conduit routing for you and give you like down to like the thickness of the conduit, down to like how many wires go into this conduit, etc. And it's like it's a mathematical like optimization thing, and so we can actually do it quite well. And it's pretty exciting. Like when we do these early demos to our electrical design partners who have helped us build the product so far, like it's pretty special. Like jaws drop for sure. Yeah.
So you guys are actually okay. This is really interesting. So you're not just doing the takeoff. You're also providing a level of, efficiency and productivity into the design build phase of the project, almost doing a decent amount of the pre-construction work that a project engineer would be responsible for doing.
Yeah, it's like, I think in electrical, maybe more so than many of the other trades, but like you being able to design your conduit system better is literally a competitive advantage against your competitors. And like us being able to help you do that more efficiently, I think is really, really great. Because there are a lot of electrical subs we talk to do that and are very sophisticated, but there are also other ones who don't have the capacity. Maybe they don't have enough people in the team that, and so they just like count the receptacles and do a markup on top of them. It's like, sounds good, move on. And sort of like having that ability to be more diligent in the takeoff allows you to have, well, fewer mistakes, but also probably better margin and higher win rates and et cetera. Because maybe part of the reason why your markups are so high is because you're very uncertain about your estimate. and sort of you have to make up for the difference. But if you're very confident there's no mistake in your estimate, or you're just like more accurate and you've engineered it better, then you can literally have a lower markup and a lower overall bid, but the same margin overall because you made
Yeah.
fewer mistakes. And that's like that's a pretty that's a pretty powerful thing. But and then I think, going back to your first question about just like the trades overall, I think, there's like 50 divisions in the CSI codes. And I think probably 20 something, maybe 30 of them like have like sort of serious takeoff.
Yeah.
And I think we'll cover probably all of them by the end of next year, by the looks of it. Maybe even sooner than that. Just by the sheer velocity of the team and how fast, where the ship and how fast also we're growing the team. It's one of those things where, like, if you're on an exponential growth curve, actually, like, the hard part is not about you're making your current team perform well. It's like you have to make your current team perform well, but then double the team every like 2-3 months and make the new team also perform well. And it's just like everything breaks down every 2 months or 3 months, and you have to like reinvent, the internal systems of the company every time.
So tell me about that whole process of basically doubling the company every 2 to 3 months and having to rebuild your org chart, your infrastructure, your technology stack. I mean, the whole thing. How's that been?
We're in the midst of it. We'll see. As in, like, it feels like it feels like every time scale has been moved up in the AI world. It used to be like, okay, the classical thing was like you want to triple, like double or something in revenue. Like the first year you're live, you want to triple revenue and then triple revenue again, and then double revenue, and then sort of that's the growth curve, and that's what a great startup would look like. Now it's like you double revenue every quarter, and we doubled. Like last year we were doing just fine, and in Q1 we doubled, and in Q2 it looks like we did more than double actually, and we certainly intend to keep doubling. And it's like, I think there's so many things. I think number one is people. It's like I think your leaders are very special in that, like, you can't just, the leaders can't just be like, okay, I have 8 people that report to me. I want to make sure these 8 people are very, very good. You're going to have the team double in the next 2 months, and you have now 16 and then again 32. And just the number of people that report to each leader just grows exponentially. And they have to make sure the new team also, performs at just the same caliber. And every new hire raises the bar, etc. And just the ability to grow as a leader also to scale with the company, I think is pretty insane. And so, like, we have a lot of really senior people actually that have seen very large teams, because we know their current teams are maybe smaller, but they're going to be eventually bigger than they've ever seen before. So like the leaders in the company are very important. The hiring of your team is, I think, also very important, in that, like, your normal individual contributors, and that, like, if you hire, you have to hire above the average of your current team. And if you just keep doing that, like, every new hire gets harder and harder, because, like, you keep raising the bar. If you hire lower than the average, then I think the strong people in your team will look at the new guys and be like, what's going on? And so you have to raise the bar every time. And sometimes it's actually a new hire comes in, it's better than all previous employees ever. Or it's sometimes better than previously imagined possible to be. Like, it's better than imagined possible. And sometimes that's like the bar. And the current team is forced with 2 options. Either you grow and you meet the new standard as well, or you give up. And I think, like, very few companies get to double revenue every quarter, and then, like, it takes a very special team to do so. And our philosophies are, like, there's a few sayings. It's like, I think it's what do I call YSD, young, smart, and desperate to get rich. And I think I think that we use that a lot. It's like, is this person YSD or not? YSD or not? And it's like, someone's like, should we hire this person? It's like, is this person YSD or not in Slack? And it's like, that's the main criteria. Because if you have the, well, in I don't know, that's like Gen Z talk. If you have the great raw ingredients in a person, you can always cook with them. And if you have other great high caliber people in the company, great leaders, great coaches, they can cook and sort of bring out, the true qualities of these natural ingredients. And the key for the hires is just like, can you grind, and are you hungry? Are you driven? Are you motivated? Are you smart enough to pick these things up? And we can teach you all the rest of the skills, but this intrinsic motivation we cannot teach you. You just have to have. And if you have it, then everything else is recoverable.
Totally agree. It's we call it hunger. And if you have the hunger and that, like, incredible desire, and it's almost beyond desire, right? It's almost like you have this sense of, I am going to do something massive with my life and my career, and I want it to be at your company. But if you as a company aren't going to give me this opportunity, I'm going to go find it elsewhere. And it's super exciting when you are growing as fast as I haven't grown quite as fast as you're growing right now, but I did go from 10 employees to 100 employees over the course of about 4 years, and that was insane. And it was very much of what you're explaining. And when you find someone that brings the entire level of the company up, like it's crazy when you have 50 employees and you hire one person and all 50 get 20% better, and that's the multiplier effect. So have you had, it sounds like you've had that happen before, where you've brought someone in recently probably, and your entire team just got 20% better overnight. Have you seen that?
We have full-time recruiters whose full-time job is just to hire new people. The goal is to be like that every time. Like every hire feels like that at Bobyard. And I think that's actually the challenge. The challenge is not hiring enough people. It's hiring people fast enough that meet the new bar every time. And it was crazy. Like Adam, our first recruiter, when he got started, I think he did like 74 first screens a week on average. It's like 35 hours of first screens a week. It's like nonstop. It was kind of crazy. But now we do we do much fewer first screens now because we know how to judge the bar and whatnot.
Yes.
But that's literally the volume that we go at in order to find the talent that we need. Yeah, it's a pretty wild time, I think. Yeah.
So it sounds wild. So tell me about this. When you're bringing in these people and you're constantly raising the bar and improving the standard, as the leader, as the CEO, how are you keeping up with this standard and raising your own bar every hire?
Well, I think if you're the leader of a company and you see your team, you owe it to the team to do these things. It's one of those, like, okay, for example, like I do a Zoom meeting, I come back, it's like 40 unreads in Slack, and every single unread is urgent and non-passable. As in, like, if you're like an IC of the team or your manager, like if something happens and it's like out of their hands, like super complicated and they can't solve the problem, it's a very, very messy problem and very painful, no one wants to do it, they can surface it one more time, they can surface it to the team leads, they can surface it up to me, but there's no one for me to surface it up to, and I have to solve it. And so I think this is the Elon thing of, like, building startups is like chewing glass, and eventually you get to enjoy the taste of your own blood or something. And it's just like you're just left with solving all of the craziest, hardest, like most messy problems that no one else in your company can or is able to solve, and you just have to solve them, because if you don't solve them, no one else will. And so you're just left with the hardest decisions nonstop. And I think, like, you owe it to the team to have good decisions in that one. I do think we've been pretty blessed to have made good decisions in the past about our general trajectory of the company and sort of overall, like, why we pick landscaping, for example, to start. I think that was a great choice. I also maybe think that the other half of it is you bring in great people, and then you have to incentivize them properly. And like we do bonuses at Bobyard. I think we do them more than anybody that I know of. And we bonus engineers like on the spot. It's like, because if you're a great engineer at a big tech company, it's like maybe you'll do some code today and maybe it's good, and maybe someone reviews it and improves it, and maybe it ends up in production, and just like you feel like your work is so far away, so far removed from the front line of the company. And it's like, does my smartness really even matter here? Like, if I were to work an extra 5-10% harder or deliver 5 to 10% better product, does it even impact the company at the end? And like, for some of the big companies, it's like thousands of engineers, maybe it actually doesn't. Here it's like you ship it and it goes live and customers complain about it right away. And so actually we bonus engineers upon product delivery when we can confirm that it increases the TAM of the company. The TAM is like, the number of customers we can sell to multiplied by how much we can sell it by. And so if you launch a really cool new product, we can, sell it as a different product line or raise the price. Boom, we get bonused. You build a new product, we can sell it to new customers, electrical takeoff, mechanical takeoff. Boom, we get bonused. And same with recruiters. It's like a funny, like when we hire our recruiters, like beforehand, like a lot of companies are like headcount quota. You have to hire 10
Yeah.
people this month, whatever it might be. It's like that's a pretty stupid quota. Like, so you just hire whoever and hire 10 people and you're boom done. You get incentivized for hiring people and making more hires. But like, what about the quality of the people? Like, what happened? Like, it isn't the point to hire great people. And so actually, our recruiters get bonused when their hires that they make get bonused. So if you hire a great engineer and that engineer gets bonus nonstop, you get bonus too. And it's just like, who cares if you make 10 hires and all of them are suck? Like you have to make great hires. And that's the challenge.
Where'd you come up with that idea of, I love this idea of, and it's the first time I'm hearing this, bonusing the recruiters when their placements get bonused. How'd you come up with that?
Well, it's just an extension of the engineering thing. It's just like towards the bottom line, you have to bonus people. And we've always done this, I guess implicitly, but now it's more explicit because now we have a whole team of recruiters and whatnot, and it's just like how do we align comp and et cetera. And so you have to be pretty as a team scales. You have to be more mathematical. There's an actual formula to calculate this now, but like it's just like I think nothing else matters except the one thing that matters. And so like there's a bunch of noise. Like, okay, how many hires did you make this month? Or who cares? Like, were they amazing or not? And okay, like you need like 10 more amazing people like this. And so just like I think if you just remove all the noise in your in this like feedback loop and just find the one thing that matters for this role, then you just align comp and you align everything for the company towards this one incentive. And you have to make sure that like this one thing aligns with the overall company goals as well, of course. And I think it's easy to do it in sales because sales is top line. It's like you close 100K in deals, boom, you get commission for it. And that's like directly contributing to the company. And it's just, I think it's harder for other roles because it's not as frontline. But I think you can always find some way that like, well, why does a recruiter even exist in the company? It's so we can hire great engineers to build more products and sell to customers, or we hire great salespeople to sell to customers. And like that, maybe there's second degree and whatnot, but you have to, then you find the underlying key incentive. Yeah.
So it's interesting. I'm picking up a lot of first principles thinking here and first principles solving because you're identifying the signal, you're finding out what really is the only thing that matters. It's interesting you pick the TAM expanding as the bonus metric, which makes actually a ton of sense because what I'm understanding with your models that you're building, it's less about maybe, impacting just one person, and it's becoming more of a distribution game. I have to understand is how you guys grow this thing. You're building the models. Now it's how many electricians can we get using the model? How many Finnish custom home builders can we get using the model? Is that kind of how you guys think about this next year of growth? Is less about the depth in one industry and more about how many more industries on that list of 50 can we solve?
Yeah, I mean, in total, there's probably like 20 or 30 in total, but like, yeah, if we double revenue every year, if we double revenue every quarter this year, and it's mainly in landscaping, and we're gonna launch 12 new trades this year, like, what are we supposed to do next year? We're supposed to take this landscaping growth curve and apply it to each of the 12 trades that we launched. I think if you raise a Series A like the one we did, like your ambitions have to scale with the round size, and you cannot have a small Series B after a very huge Series A. Like the Series B needs to be exponentially bigger. And it was a pretty special round. Like Joe Lonsdale, who's the founder of ABC, joined the board at Bobyard, and Joe's like, well, there's very few people in the world that get to call themselves a Palantir co-founder. In fact, there's probably I think it's like 4 co-founders at Palantir, and Joe's one of them. And so it's like, my understanding is he doesn't take very many board seats anymore, and so it's just like, the ambitions have to be sufficiently large to be interesting. And I think. I do think we see that though. Like there's so much to do in construction, and I don't think anybody's actually captured the value in this vertical before. And like you cannot have, because construction is a third as productive per full-time employee as the general U.S. economy, and there can't be an amazing successful player in construction if this is the end result. Like all the tooling we've ever provided to construction, and on average, a full-time worker in construction is like a third as productive as the general U.S. working force, and so it's just like that opportunity is massive. you can triple the productivity of each person, and so you can it's like 2x more in addition. And it's like, what is like combined productivity of all the workers in construction? You can 3x that, and that's just to catch up with the rest of the U.S. economy. And so like obviously there's a huge opportunity, and obviously whatever has happened in the past has worked, sure, but it could have worked at least 3 times better. And so I think there's a lot to do. And being able to read construction blueprints is what our main thesis is. Is like, I think it's hard to argue that there's something more valuable in construction than reading blueprints very well.
I would agree with that completely. Do you see your TAM increasing simply based on your own ability to improve the productivity in construction?
I mean, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. As in, like, there's no reason why. Okay, there's some rough math you can do of like, okay, like how productive is each full-time employee, and they're probably worth their salary at least like 1x. And so if you can 3x that, you can literally create, I think it's like number of people in construction multiplied by average salary. That's like, the total return. And you can multiply that by 2 for like the new additional value you can create. It's like a 800 billion to like $1 trillion in new value you could create in construction if you do this. And I don't see why like construction can't actually be bigger than that. Like I feel like construction is probably one of the most important, like strategically most important verticals in a country anyways. And like for it to be one of the least innovative is not a good place to be, I think, geopolitically and everything. And so like it's also it's like maybe the reason why there's a huge construction labor shortage. It's like and this one we're not gonna, this is not a seasonal thing. It's not like macroeconomic thing. It's not gonna be the case that in 2 years it's gonna be much better and people are gonna be applying for jobs again. Like this is like a forever thing, and you just have to innovate out of it. And maybe the reason why is because like there's a lot of people retiring out of construction, and it's like thousands of people retire like every day or every week from the baby boomer generation. I forgot the stats.
We're approaching, by 2030 it'll be 10,000 people every single day that are turning 65 years old.
Yeah, which is 10,000 a day.
10,000 a day.
Yeah, that's a lot. And it's just like, and I think so many of them are in construction verticals, and like no one new is joining in this industry. And like maybe the reason why is because the tools are literally 25 years old. Like we go to mechanical takeoff, like the other takeoff tools in mechanical are literally 25 years old. It's like, damn, like, a lot has happened in the last 25 years. And so, I mean, maybe the reason why no one wants to join is because the tools aren't sort of there yet for the best talent, and the best talent wants to work with the best tools and be empowered in the best way. And I think you did an episode with Richard Sperber, and I recently met him, and his main thing, actually, I asked him about how he grew his 2 companies, and actually his main thing was people. It's like you have to have great people around you and whatnot. You have to invest in your people. And I think maybe the actual contrarian take here is that, like, in the age of AI and automation, the thing that actually matters is your people, and you have to invest in them, and you have to give them the proper tooling, it's just like if you don't give them the best tooling, like they probably don't. Not only will they be less productive, but they probably don't want to do it in the first place. And so maybe if you have better tooling in construction and better software tools for pre-construction or whatever it might be, there'll actually be more people that want to join construction, because finally there's like modern day tools and modern day equipment that they can use for the future of construction. And I think it's one of those things, because you can easily join a high tech startup, and the resources you have there and the leverage you have there to empower yourself to be productive and it sort of impact the business overall is just much higher. And it's like, if you're 3x less productive, your leverage is like much lower in your company. You just like are able to impact the bottom line less at your company.
Exactly. You're hitting it totally. And I want to draw an interesting correlation here between Jensen Huang and NVIDIA and your average landscape contractor or any construction company. So I think Jensen said if his engineers aren't using 250 to 300,000 a year in tokens, he's going to be upset.
Yeah.
So like everyone's freaking out about this. Like, oh my God. Okay, well, let's compare that to a construction operator who's operating multiple pieces of equipment over the course of the year that all cost $200, $300, $400,000.
Yep.
And if you take the depreciation and amortize those pieces of equipment and apply it to an operator, a lot of operators in construction are actually utilizing $200,000 to $300,000 a year in equipment, right? And I bet it's more if you take the truck and everything else, but no one talks about that. And so if you take that same, and I'll say this, operators in the construction industry will buy new tractors and new trucks any day of the week. Like that's why Ford has been ripping and John Deere and everybody else is just, they've been on a great run for the last 20 years. But then you go to that same operator, that same owner, and you've probably been in the room doing this, and you're like, hey, here's a software tool that costs very little compared to your overall, overhead. And it's going to help you bring productivity to your office. They go, oh, no, I'm not going to spend money on that. But they'll quickly go spend $100,000 on a truck like this Saturday at the auction. I mean, the I don't even know what to call it. It's just a bit of a oblivious, burying your head in the sand. But what's your take on that whole challenge that we're facing in the industry? And maybe it's getting easier, maybe it's getting harder, but I thought I'd throw that out there.
I do think Bobyard, I think it's getting easier and easier, as in like I think maybe we have enough brand now, and we sort of have enough how many case studies do we need to shoot with our customers in order for you to believe that we have a real product? And sort of I think we've hit some critical mass or something like that. And I do think when we talk to these new trades, I think it's a crazy conversion rate. I think like 91% of our demos have converted to like early design partner customers for the new trades. It's kind of crazy. Like
that is a crazy number.
It's like a stupid conversion rate. And it's just because I think we showed them something truly special. And I think I think actually there are plenty of people in construction that have plenty of cool ideas on how they want to do their workflow better. Like they've been using the same takeoff tool for the past 20 years. Like they have so many ideas in their head from the past 10, 20 years of experience of how to make this better, how to do it better if they were to do it. It's so often the case I talk to an owner and the owner's like, I've been wanting to do this for the past however many years. I have so many ideas in this notebook. Please take a look at these ideas. And finally, I think Bobyard gets to become like the sort of channel in which they get to channel their excitement and vision and ideas into what could be a really cool product for them. That's also a signal that like actually the product could have been better if the providers and the current providers sort of like went where the customer is trying to pull them. Because we get pulled from customers in all sorts of different directions. And I think many people in construction have really grand ambitions and visions for what the product could be and what the workflow could be. If you talk to a huge landscaper, it's like 50 estimators. Like they have very, very sophisticated workflows and they know exactly what sucks right now and what could be better. And they're very, very analytical about that. I
want to ask a question because I think it's interesting. You guys have taken a different approach to software building than I would say your legacy SaaS companies. You guys will take feedback. I can say this from experience, and literally overnight, you guys are updating the models, even if it's just a small tweak. This is new to the construction industry. Legacy SaaS takes years in a roadmap and this weird like feedback email that you'll send and never hear from anyone except maybe a customer service rep. But you yourself as a CEO and your higher level engineering team is involved daily in this feedback loop. Was that an intentional thing you built out from the beginning? And how do you think it's going to help you guys grow in the future?
Yeah, it's actually a funny balance. I think it's actually like an art. One thing it's like, the first thing is like, there's a concept of product market fit in the startup world where, if you have product market fit, it feels like the market pulls the product out of the company. Like we can't build product fast enough to satisfy all our customers. We have a bajillion like all different customers from all different angles are asking us to please build this new cool thing, build that cool new thing, and pulling us in all sorts of different directions. Like please have this in your roadmap, and we just can't build fast enough. When you don't have product market fit though, it feels you're pushing it. It's like please use this. Like is this useful, et cetera. And it's
use
just
this new feature.
Yeah, it's a very different feeling. And I think, when we launched 2.0, actually, like, I think it was very well received, actually. Everybody, when we did early testing for the 2.0 product, everybody really liked it. And I think it's like, we just had so much we do new iterations constantly. Like every week we ship new features, but sometimes you just aggregate a bunch of things across the span of a quarter or two, and you have to revamp the whole thing in order to like solve some of these core problems. Um, and I think so. I think speed is probably one of the most important things for a startup to have. Like that's your defining advantage, being able to move fast. And if you're a startup and you don't move fast, then like you have nothing else, because the incumbents have scale and they're huge, and they have brand recognition and they have everything else, but they don't have speed. And being able to move fast is I think everything. And yeah, you're right about engineering, by the way. Like our speed, like each engineer spends like I think a few thousand. I thought like I saw a few $1,000s a week one time on one engineer using tokens for their AI tools, and like maybe it's a little too much, but like high leverage. And I do think when we bring in other engineers or our engineering lead, it's like it's so much faster than anything else he's been at before. He was like, what used to take months now literally just take a few days. It's just like so fast. The speed at which like the Bobyard team moves, and yes, it's probably AI tools, but also because I think we just built an insanely capable team. It's the same with the product. It's funny, like normally at companies, you actually are what's like engineering constrained. So you have like designers and product managers who envision what the product should be, what features should look like, and design the Figma files for what the features should look like. And then the designers are like 6 months ahead and design products in the future, and the engineers catch up and build the product as they go. At Bobyard, it's the opposite. If the designers don't get their designs approved for this new product feature this week, the engineers will have nothing to do next week. And it's just like a race to actually go through and design and think through the product. Because I think if shipping code is no longer the limiting factor, then the limiting factor of your company is actually the ability to articulate and think through and envision the product that you want to build. And actually the bottleneck now is just like your thought instead of, I don't know, engineering typing speed. And so it's actually a very interesting bottleneck that we have to solve. Yeah.
That's a radical new bottleneck that a lot of engineering teams are facing. So with that being said, you mentioned people. And going back to Richard Sperber, I got to talk to him, and I got the same thing from him. It's all about the people. With the advent of the new age AI and the coding capabilities and the engineering capabilities that you guys have access to, how important is it to get the right people on the team? It seems like order of magnitude improvement, because the tools will either accelerate good people or accelerate the bad people in the wrong direction.
Yeah, there's a concept in engineering management for 10x engineers. This is partially why engineering is such a hard thing to manage. If you're the analogy is like if you're like a nail, like you're like on a manufacturing line and you like create these like nails or something, or like whatever physical product you're producing. And it's like, okay, you're like a welder or something. You're welding these different parts together, and like a great welder might be like twice as good as like a mediocre welder. Maybe that's at most all you can do. But a great engineer could be like 100 times better than a mediocre engineer, like 100 times better. And just like that scale and that difference means all your math changes. Like, and so like the ceiling for being good is just so much higher in engineering. And it means that your best people could be just way, way better. And I think so. I think AI tools also, I think if you're like 100x better, you can use the AI tools 100x better than the person who's like an average engineer. And so the better you are, the more it helps you get better. And so it's exponential in return. And I think that's true. And I think it's actually very dangerous for a junior engineer to like never have learned how to code without the AI tools. And that's part of our interview process, actually. Like, you actually don't, for one of the rounds, like you can't use AI tools and you have to just code on your own. Because like if all you knew how to do was use ChatGPT and sort of cursor and whatnot, like there's some, you get into trouble for that. Like there's subtle mistakes that you might make that you never catch, and like the slop really gets you. Also, I think that's that's the case also in construction, by the way. Um,
Yep.
a lot of our large customers worry about this more than anything else. They worry that actually takeoff is a starting position at their company. They have 50 estimators, they have 100 estimators sometimes. And it's like, that's the quintessential first experience at our company. That's the junior position, takeoff engineer. And that's our career, that's the starting point for all of our career paths. If you want to be a project manager, if you want to be a superintendent, you want to be into management eventually, almost all of them started in estimating and pre-con initially. And reading the blueprints, coming into a construction project or into a company and learning how to read the blueprints and doing a takeoff and estimate is such a core part of learning construction. And if we go in and automate everything, then like you're not learning what you're supposed to be learning, and you're not diligent about the takeoff. You're not diligent about reading through the specs. And yes, it's like boring, but you got to do it. You got to learn how to do it. And I think that's actually something we focus on and design on in our workflows. And there's a big difference in 2.0 and 1.0. And 2.0 is much more systematic in the workflow. It's like, okay, this step, set up the models. This step, tune the parameters. This step, run the model. This step, review the outputs. And boom, boom, boom. And because also, like, if you have 50 different estimators, you would like it to be the case that your customers can't tell which of your estimators did the bid. You would like it to be all the same, preferably. Otherwise, you know exactly which estimator it's like, oh, this one's off, class of mistakes. And it's like, you preferably have the same standard and same format. And actually, a lot of new estimators learn construction and learn takeoff by learning Bobyard as well. And if you hire a new person, preferably they can also just join the company and know how to do it from day one, and sort of like they don't have to reinvent the workflow each time when they have a new hire. But I think it's cool because like inherently though, unless you're like you're a very like lazy engineer and like software engineering, you wouldn't just let the models go off and run on its own and just do its own work. You would review and double check it and sort of iterate with it. And that's the thing that's the same for takeoff, in that like, our philosophy is that AI models are middle to middle and humans are end to end.
Yeah.
And so a human can go and define its own task and do it and then like review its own work and then feel good about himself. But not a model. Like a model can't do the start and the end. They can only do the middle part. And so I think also the key insight is that like the better defined and the more narrow the scope is of your workflow, the more accurate and the better the model gets at it. Because like a general model for everything is not going to be good at anything in particular very, very well. And so if you narrow the scope and define the workflow and sort of like, okay, go and count plants, these symbols in the drawings. Once you train it on that, it'll happily do it tens of thousands of times over and over again. And it will always stay consistent about that. And so the key is that if AI models are middle to middle, then you always have to have humans in the loop when it comes to setting up the model, reviewing it, double checking it, controlling it, etc., and sort of orchestrating the models together. And that's actually part of the training now. It's like which model to use where, because we have like so many different models for different use cases, etc.
Yeah, and so I'm seeing this correlation between coding and engineering and doing a takeoff. And there's a similar workflow of, generating the design, inputting it, the model creates some level of data that needs to then be human reviewed, and then you requery that model to get kind of a final product. It seems like a similar workflow. And I think the workflow, the word workflow, first of all, is probably being used more than it ever has been. It's becoming a very common way to describe what we do day to day. And then how can we augment or automate some part of that workflow to save us time or enhance our product or enhance our productivity? I don't even know if there's a question in there. I'm just drawing a correlation here.
There's a Jensen. You mentioned Jensen Huang earlier. Like Jensen has this thing of like, what will jobs be in the future? And it won't be about what you do, but like the core purpose of your position. As in, the purpose of an engineer is not to type funny characters into the computer. It's to create value for your customers and build products. And like, you're not the only person in the world that can type these funny characters into the keyboard. Like, that's not your differentiable alpha. Like, that's not the alpha to be had. It's actually like being able to architect all these systems and build at the end a realizable product for the customer. And a lot of times, actually, you see engineers before AI models, it's like they're limited. Their biggest bottleneck for executing this product faster is that they couldn't type fast enough. Like, they literally can't type fast enough, and they make mistakes in typing, whatever that might be. And now it's just like they can solve problems at the speed of thought because they think it and they solve it in their head. They probably used to be able to solve it instantly, but just they can't type it fast enough. But now it's like The AML can type way faster than you. They can type, multiple things in parallel. Same with an estimator. An estimator's like core purpose is not to count plants on the drawing, like count symbols. Like that's not your differentiating. That's not the key differentiator for you. That's not the alpha. The purpose of the estimator is to produce these bids and to win work for your company, and to have proper margins and taking into account all these different risks in your project. And like that's your differentiating factor, and that's what the purpose of the position is. The purpose is not to count the plants. And so when you, I think we say this a lot actually. It's like your company is running optimally when everybody in your company is only doing things that only they can do all the time. And it's not the case that you're the only person that can type funny characters, and it's not the case that you're the only person in the world that can count these symbols. And so like you can automate that portion of the work, but then it's like there's some things that are very important in the drawings that you have to account for and whatnot. And it's like our AI models can't make those business decisions for you. There's some like straight up just business calls and sort of decisions you have to make while reading the drawings. But we can surface them for you. We can be like, oh, this is an ambiguous portion of the drawing and whatnot, but we can't make this decision for you. So yeah, I think a lot of this is about increasing leverage for people in your company.
Yeah, I agree. It's so interesting to see the leverage increasing at this exponential rate, because if you can help automate some of these takeoff and counting plant tasks that people are doing, and then you can stack that on top of email automation, because the same principle applies to email. It's like your job isn't to send emails. Your job is to communicate with our clients and vendors and subcontractors. You're just happen to utilize this technology we call email. But is there a better way to communicate what you need to communicate utilizing some type of AI agent or another opportunity? And so what I see as a future potential, where we start to get 10x estimators or 10x construction professionals, is where you do a really good job automating each individual role in the company, and then you create a bit of a nucleus around that entire team. So estimating agents can be talking to the construction agent, or let's say there's a project manager who needs to bless the production rates. It's like, if they have a pre-designed and pre-agreed, production rate on this type of project, then your representative, your estimator, can basically query the project manager through the internal system and get approval instantly if it falls within the parameters that are pre-designated around production rates. How are you guys going about communicating? And feel free to answer this as openly or however you want to take this question in whatever direction. But there's this new really, really big unlock, which is connectors, whether it's Claude or another LLM that is helping people get more connections with their tech stack. How do you guys see Bobyard interacting with the tech stack of a current company, whether it be a Sage product that's doing the job costing or something else? How would you guys ideally like that to look?
I mean, there's some integration. So we're building across different tech stack things. Preferably, like it's like a clean swap, because our game plans to go horizontal here, and we want to do takeoff for all the trades, and we want to play. We want to plug in nicely with every other product in the stack that our current customers might be using. But also, I think actually there's an interesting thing here, which is like all of pre-construction lives in the sort of like the projected cost world. And then all of construction is like the actual cost world. And so like, actually, if you do a takeoff in the estimate, like everything in pre-con sort of is one coherent set of data. It's all about the supposed cost of the project, the supposed quantity of materials, et cetera, and the supposed schedule for the project. And so actually all that is coherent. And actually, I think the data that will flow very, very smoothly. And sort of like your procurement should be from your estimate, your budgeting should be from your estimate, all these different things, and your scheduling should be from your estimate, et cetera. And so I think there's a really cool ways we can actually expand there. And I think it's all one coherent sort of like ecosystem of data. I think that would be very natural. I think then in construction, I think it's a bit different, because like once your plans hit reality, like you have to actually start tracking actual costs, et cetera. And I think that's what the ERP systems are for. But it's also cool because like some of these, some of these workflows don't have any software to begin with. Like, we can't tell you the number of customers that actually like it's like, oh yeah, we use a takeoff tool and Excel. And the incumbent software there. And I mean, I think it actually makes sense because, like, especially in construction, like in maintenance is a bit different, but in landscape construction, it's so complicated that it makes sense why no one's really cracked the code on a construction estimate software
Yeah.
product. There's just so much stuff going on, and I think that the with the 2.0 launch, we also have actually we have a 3.0 version of the estimate table and database coming out, and that one I think we finally got there. Like some of the we've worked on this 3.0 estimate table and database sort of architecture for the past like 2-3 months now, with literally the largest landscaping companies in the world, and they have like insane like formulas and calculations, and there's like so much stuff that they showed us. But I think we actually got there at the end, and it's like no one like it was pretty hard, and like no wonder no one's cracked the code on like construction estimating and landscaping, and like building a software code is very hard. But I think the I think the product team cooked on this one, and it's very cool what they've come up with. And I think like just a part of it is just like being able to do all three things in one platform. You have your takeoff tool, which like, okay, you measure a polygon, great. What is the price of the polygon? How long does it take to do that polygon? You know the square footage, but what about the rest of it? Okay, and so you can do the pricing, but also the database and all your vendor stuff. And it's like you can keep track of all your assemblies and all your historical things there. There's some really cool logic things we've done. For example, with 2.0, actually it's already out with multi-measure. It's like you draw a polygon, great, but you actually need multiple things. You need the area of the polygon, you need the volume of the polygon, and you need the perimeter of the polygon. Because it's all one measurement, but you need multiple things out of it. And multi-measure will literally do that. It will literally like hook up to this one polygon logically, multiple different measurements that also tie into a line item in your database. And so it's like I measure this polygon, but boom, automatically it's like you have the edging, you have whatever it is that you need for the perimeter. Boom, you have the volume, you have the density, you have the compaction rate for the soil, etc. And you have the price because you have the historical database for your like labor and your material costs. And so I think it'd be quite cool. I think like the dream come true there is like in the same time you're doing a takeoff, you're also getting an estimate for free. And I think we're almost there for the level of automation. Like 3.0 estimate table will be pretty damn close. Yeah.
Super excited. That is one of the biggest challenges I talk to people in the industry about, the pricing consistency, because the fluctuations of material. And I mean, that's the biggest thing, and the SKUs, and trying to make sure you're pricing the same 2x4, because you can put in a 2x4, but is it a 2x4 that's pressure treated, a 2x4 that's redwood, there's like so many different SKUs for the same product. It becomes very, very difficult. Are you guys finding, what I'm understanding is you're getting some major traction here around building a data set and a table that could ultimately price what the product is getting? Yeah.
We announced recently, I think earlier this year, we announced our Horizon partnership.
Yeah,
and I forgot exactly how many takeoffs. There's like thousands of takeoffs a year, maybe tens of thousands actually. And they're a supplier, and so their database is insane. It's literally every product in their catalog. The custom stuff you have to build there. But yeah, like we had to support some pretty crazy stuff and insane volume on their front. And I think like actually the challenge there is actually being able to support everybody along the spectrum of like you're literally Horizon, one of the biggest companies in the space, or you got 2 estimators in house and you're just getting started. You have 10 million revenue a year. And I think being able to design the product to be able to support both is pretty cool. And it's also pretty cool when we onboard a new customer and they look to us to see what do sort of the big boys do when they do takeoff. It's like, how does this, like a few hundred mil top line landscape company operate their estimates?
Yeah.
I'm like, please tell us how they do about it, and sort of like best practices and sort of like ideas there that we can share across our customer base. I think that's really cool. And a lot of that gets baked into our design of the product as we sort of incorporate feedback from everybody.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest positives of partnering with a Bobyard is getting that type of access and information, because one of the ways I've learned how to build our company is by talking to not just landscapers that are bigger than us, that's been huge, but also companies like Granite Rock, who's 9-figure construction company, completely different than us, but so many similarities from the estimating, takeoff, and proposals positioning. They're just proposing, moving dirt and grading versus and installing concrete and asphalt versus landscaping. But it's, change out the products. It's basically the same thing. And I'm really excited for this horizontal breadth that you're making, because you're going to bring in techniques from other trades that have currently lived in silos for decades. And then you guys are going to be able to, take that and apply it to other trades that maybe never would have had access to why electricians do this. Well, maybe landscapers should also start doing it. So,
True.
yeah.
I think it's same with our internal teams at Bobyard. It's like, one engineer has this breakthrough idea. Like it should be the case that the team collectively only learns each lesson once. And now that each person has to go off and learn their own lesson, and then, it's like repeat. And I think that's the same. I think that's a cool observation. I think like, if you want construction to innovate faster, I think one cool idea is just like to not have to reinvent the wheel every time. And sort of like compound the learnings over and over.
Yeah. So as we start to wrap the episode up, I just want to ask, you've come out with 2.0 now. Are you guys following somewhat of a roadmap that's similar to some of the other larger AI companies that you're going to plan to do a 3.0, maybe a 4.0 down the road? Is that kind of how you're envisioning the future?
I mean, it's funny, like we launched 2.0, we already launched 2.05 and 2.1, I guess. It's like, well, we constantly do iterations. There'll be a 3.0 of an estimate table product coming out this quarter. I think 2.0 actually does a lot. We do have plans for some crazier things as well in 3.0. I think there's like some really cool ideas once you crack the code on reading drawings across multiple trades, etc. And so there's some interesting things there. I think one of the key problems in construction actually is collaboration across different verticals and different parties. And you only get to do that when you read drawings for everybody. And so there's some cool things there. I think we'll follow the roadmap, but like the numbers don't really mean too much. Like 3.0 could be like the difference between 3.0 I think will be bigger. Like the difference between 3.0 and 2.0 will be bigger than 2.0 to 1.0. I think it'll always be exponentially bigger. There's a lot of stuff happening, and lots of cool things we're building.
That's super exciting. Well, I do think something that's really interesting when we look at the TAM is when we look at the construction industry, we're typically measuring productivity or dollars spent by the U.S. economy in that 1 trillion plus range. But we aren't necessarily looking at how many people proposed bids for that $1 trillion worth of work. It might actually be 3 or 4x the amount of proposals that go out. So even though we have a GDP of $1 trillion in the industry, we may have 3 or 4 trillion of estimating that takes place for that same amount of work that gets done.
Right,
so,
yeah.
And I assume that will increase with access to tools such as Bobyard. I think you guys are going to be an unlock for a lot of companies who have been unable to go and provide proposals because they're so busy doing the work.
I can't tell you the number of people that we talked to. It's like we passed up on a bid last week because we had no time to bid on it, even though you guys can probably execute that project, and even though you might be able to execute it better than the other guys. It's like, you're there in the city, you're there in that local geo, and you care about those projects and you want to do them, and you can do them better than everybody else. But some like huge company comes in, but they have a massive estimating team and they can just bid out everybody. And it's just like maybe the differentiating factor here should not be your ability to place bids, but your actual ability to execute work and craft and like the quality of your team. And so often like that's not even a way you can compete because you're just too busy and you can't place a bid at all to begin with. I completely agree. I think there's a lot of actually like a lot of companies actually could do a lot better if they went out and chased more bids like that. Yeah.
So if someone's listening to this and are like wants to see the product work in person, what's the best way to get in touch with you guys and your team?
Well, we also launched a new website, so Bobyard.com. Pretty cool now. We have a bunch of new visuals there. So website easy. Happy to show you guys product there, but also like we go to a bunch of trade shows and conferences, and so chances are we're showing up to the next landscaping trade show you guys are going to. That's also cool. We generally have a booth, and we try to do live either like speaking gigs or something along those lines, sort of to talk to more people about that. Yeah.
Sweet, awesome. And I ask everyone for a trade secret at the end of the episode. My question to you is similar, but I'm just interested. What's been the biggest aha moment you've had since that Series A round of funding, just as the CEO of a rapidly growing AI company?
Well, we talk about team a lot. I think maybe the other thing about team is um, like communication and sort of like articulation of the vision. As in when a team gets so big, like you just have to keep saying over and over again. Like, okay, for example, like double every quarter, like double every quarter. I've said this like every week, at, like every all hands, every meeting is just like double, double, double. And you just like can't say it enough. And I think that's definitely part of the job of the leader and essentially the CEO and whatnot. It's like you have to rearticulate the vision constantly. Also because like half the team is new and they need to hear it. And you just have to keep articulating it. I think actually that's a very like how do you articulate this vision in a compelling way and sort of like distribute across the team. A lot of this is a communication problem, and I think that's actually one of the key things so far. It's just like you can't say it enough times. Yeah.
So I love that answer, and so I have kind of an interesting follow-up question. If someone's listening to this podcast and that person ends up working for you in a year from today, what would you want them to know about the future of Bobyard?
What would I want them to know about the future of Bobyard? Well, I think we said a lot already. Like I think reading construction blueprints is pretty important. But I think well, I would probably actually say is like joining Bobyard is a test of character. And always you're faced with new challenges and like a stupid high bar, and you're always faced with a choice of rising to the occasion or not. It's a very few companies get to double revenue every quarter and sort of like ever. And to be on this exponential growth curve, you need like unreasonable growth curve. You need to do unreasonable things and expect unreasonable things out of people. And I think like it's a test of character for sure. And I think if everybody at the Bobyard team is like insanely strong, yeah. And so like maybe one last analogy is like a lot of us like play sports at Bobyard, and I had this coach. It's like you do running or something like that, and it's like the key actually is like you're supposed to whatever it was like 15 minutes run around the track, and the key is you have to do more laps that in this 15 minutes than you did last time. So it's not like here's your target like 30 laps, go run 30 laps in this amount of time. It's like okay, last week you did 30, now you have to do 31. And the key actually is like if you're spending time doing it, you have to get better over time. And like the key for consistency is always improving. And the bar was just stupid high. And the crazy thing for the coach was like if you don't hit your new target, like you keep running it until you hit it eventually. So it's brutal actually. But the bar is very high, and I think like that the bar has to be that high in order to do something this crazy. Yeah.
Man, you've shared a lot today. Thank you so much. It's honestly really, really an honor and inspiration to talk to you. What you're doing, not just in the AI industry and the Silicon Valley, but what you're doing in the trades is really something that is, I think, going to end up being a catalyst for a lot of other change that needs to happen. Your product is pushing the industry, not just the construction industry, but the technology and software industry that serves construction to raise the bar. And it's very clear and evident to me that you guys are going to be a dominant force in this pre-construction area of not just landscaping, but the entire industry. And just want to say congratulations on all your success so far. And I'm excited to keep watching you guys grow.
Well, thank you, Justin. I really appreciate that. I mean, like, it's been amazing to have you and the Candy team as a partner. I think you guys are amazing. It's great to have your support. It's quite a privilege there. And I think like you and sort of the larger like sort of network that you have now of like the disruptors and sort of the movement that you've started. I think like I think when I went to a conference recently for landscapers, and it's like landscape millionaires under 30 or something. It's like of like young landscape CEOs. I think that was really cool. I think we need more of that. I think you're definitely spearheading that movement for sure. And I think a lot of people actually look up to you. I see a lot of new landscaping guys that start their businesses, and they look up to you for sure. I think the industry needs more of this, and I think the energy is there, and I think the appetite is there for it. I think it takes a lot of work to get there, though. Yeah,
it's a lot of work. Well, I'm excited to have you back on for part 3 at some point when maybe it's after your Series B and
Sure.
you do something crazy.
Awesome.
All right, man. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to Trades Talk, where the next generation of disruptors comes to raise the bar. If you got value from today's episode, share it with someone in the trades who's ready to level up. For more tools, insights, and community, follow host Justin White and join the movement at jwhitegroup.com.